Neon green.
Is my mic on? Mic working? Okay. All right, good. All right. If you'll bow your heads with me for a quick word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this privilege to have the ability to preach your word. It's an honor. I pray that you bless my words, my mind, that you speak to us this morning as you have all morning. I ask you this in your son's name. Amen. There's a young Israelite man, and he's journeying from his home to a city called Timnah. Now, this is in Philistine territory, and he's an Israelite man, as I've mentioned. He walks in there. I don't know if he's going to the local Starbucks, getting a bite to eat. Maybe it's a lot like Berrien Springs. There isn't really much around, so he's going over to South Bend, or to Benton Harbor. So he walks into the city, and as he's walking, he does one of these. He has to take a step back, and he's breaking his neck because someone has just caught his eye. The most beautiful young lady he has ever seen. He breaks his neck, and I picture him saying to himself, "She is fine. I have never seen a young lady as beautiful as this. I want her." So, I don't know if he was socially awkward or what's going on, but he doesn't speak to her. He doesn't address her. He doesn't introduce himself and say, "Yo, girl, can I get your number?" He actually runs home, back to where he's from, and talks to his mother and his father and says, "I just met the girl of my dreams. I want to marry her. Please go get her for me." Now, they inquire about this young lady. Where's she from? The mother, of course, is asking these questions. And he says, "Well, she's a Philistine. And on top of that, she's from Timnah. You know, the city right over there where you always tell them to stay away from." Now, the mother says, "My son, is there no one here from our people, from our kin, from the Israelites that you could pick? Why are you picking a Philistine?" And he says, "She's the one. That's who I want. Please go get her for me." Now, what they didn't know was that the Lord, Yahweh, was looking for an occasion to confront the Philistines, and he was setting this up. So they agree, and Samson and his parents, some short time later, are headed over to Timnah once again to meet this young lady. And Samson, at some point, it seems that he and his parents are separated on this journey. They may have gotten there before him. On his way there, we're told that as he approaches the vineyards of this city in Timnah, a young lion approaches. Now, to give you a better visual, this young lion must have been, at least in today's context, 6 feet long, 400 pounds. This is no house cat. This isn't even 5 or 6 or 10 house cats. It's a big cat. And this lion is hungry. He jumps and pounces. And in that very moment, we're told that the Spirit of the Lord, the translation, the Spirit of Yahweh, comes powerfully upon Samson. Samson reaches up as this lion is pouncing on him, grabs him, handles him, and rips him in half, as he would have a young goat. My man was built. And on top of that, he had a performance-enhancing drug called the Spirit of Yahweh. How could he fail? Now, he brushes his shoulders off. It's no big deal. He was used to fighting. He walks into the city of Timnah like nothing happened. Doesn't tell his mother, doesn't tell his father, because he's got one thing on his mind, and that's this young Philistine woman. So he sits down with her, we're told, and he likes her. That's it. That's all we're told. He sits down with her. He talks to her. He likes her. He's like, this is happening. He returns home with his parents. Sometime after, they journey back to Timnah. See, Samson's getting married. He's getting what he wanted. And as they're headed to Timnah, once again, Samson's on his own journeying. He sees this swarm of bees from a distance and recalls he's been in this location before. he approaches it and he sees that it's that 400-pound, 6-foot-long lion's carcass that he defeated. And in it, there's a beehive and honey. Now, Samson says, man, I'm tired. I'm about to go get married. Maybe I'm a little nervous. Stomach isn't feeling so great. Let me get a little honey. So he leans over. He starts scooping up the honey. Now, we're told that he takes this honey to his parents for them to eat. So I assume that he had maybe, a little jar or something of clay, and he starts scooping it in there. He takes it to his parents, and they have a taste for themselves. He tells no one. Up until this point, the only people that know of the lion and the honey are Samson and Yahweh. No one else. And so we're told, as it was customary, Samson would hold for his wedding a 7-day feast, a party, if you will. And when the people saw Samson, they gave him 30 companions, 30 groomsmen, if you will. That's a big party. Now, Samson was a confident man. And Samson sat there and looked at them, and he says this. He says, if I tell you guys a riddle and you can solve it, then I'll give you 30 linen garments, 30 sets of clothes. But if you can't, at the end of the 7 days of this feast, you've got to give me 30 linen garments, 30 sets of clothes. Now, in today's context, that's not cheap. That's 30 outfits. 30 fresh sneakers, 30 fresh shirts, and jeans. So Samson knows no one can figure this riddle out. But they're willing to take their chances. And they say, yeah, go ahead. I'm sure we've heard it before. We'll figure this out. And that's outfits for everybody. And so we're told that Samson's riddle goes as following. He says, out of the eater, something to eat. Now remember, out of the strong, something sweet. The only people that know and could possibly solve this riddle are Samson and Yahweh. And that's it. And so we're told that 1 day passes, 2 days pass, 3 days pass, and they're all at this feast and they're getting frustrated. The 4th day comes around and they are so angry, so frustrated with Samson that they engage his wife and they intimidate her. I picture them pinning her against the wall, speaking to her, and they threaten her and they tell her, if you don't tell us the answer to this riddle, we're going to burn you, your father's household down. Now, these are groomsmen, right? And so what she does, she's fearful, she's scared. Remember, women in this society don't have status. She doesn't really know Samson very well. So what she does is she jumps to his feet and falls down on her knees and starts weeping and sobbing and crying and pleading with him. And he says, what's wrong? What in the world? It's been 4 days. We've been feasting. What's going on here? Did I make a mistake? And he's thinking, what's going on? What she tells him is, Samson, you don't love me. You don't really love me. You've given all your groomsmen, you've given all these people this riddle to solve, and you haven't even told me, your wife, the answer to this riddle? You don't love me. Now Samson scoffs and says, excuse me? I haven't even told my mother and father, who I have known my whole life, the answer to this riddle. Okay. She says, day 5, day 6. We're told that the remainder of the days of the feast, she continues to plead and cry and sob. Remember, her life is on the line. She has been threatened. It's not just her, but it's the life of her father and her father's household that has been threatened. And Samson, on the 7th day, finally just can't do it anymore. He's seeing this girl that he really likes. He married her. He wants to spend life with her. And she keeps crying and sobbing, and he says, well, what's the harm? It's the 7th day. The day is almost over. I'll go ahead and tell you. He goes and tells her the story of the young lion that he tore in half. Now, she, in turn, goes and tells the men that had threatened her and her household. And what we're told in verse 18 of chapter 14 in the book of Judges is that before sunset on the seventh day, almost just as soon as that deadline hit, that the men go up to Samson and say, hey, Samson, right before the day ends, before the feast is over, what is sweeter than honey and what is stronger than a lion? Samson is blown. Not just that, Samson is mad. Because Samson knows the only people that knew this up until a couple days ago were Yahweh and myself, and that lion's not saying nothing to nobody. And his response is anger, not just towards them, but towards the woman he just married. He says, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. He knows exactly what happened. And he is livid. And we're told that in that moment, once again, the Spirit of Yahweh comes powerfully upon him. And his response is, okay, I owe you 30 linen garments. I owe you 30 sets of clothes. I got you. He kills 30 men with that spirit, with that strength, strips them of their clothes, and hands those clothes over to them. See, they didn't have to be clean clothes because he knew he was cheated. So he figured, here you go. Not just that, but at the end, we're told that burning with anger, in today's words, heated, he leaves and goes back to his mother and father's town and probably to their home. And he leaves his wife behind. He's so angry. Now, he doesn't know what verse 20 says yet, that his wife was given to one of the companions that had attended him. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is crazy. This is off of a telenovela. Like, what is going on here? When's the twin popping out? What's happening? It gets better. Stay with me. My brother knows. He knows. So now we move on to the meat, to Judges 15. Some time passes and Samson heads back to the city of Timnah. We're told that he's going to visit his wife, the one that he had left. He was angry. Maybe he felt bad. He knew, okay, well, she's safe. Maybe there were circumstances. I'm going to go back. I'm going to spend some time with her. He gets to the door. His father-in-law opens. So he knocks. Father-in-law opens. Father-in-law starts sweating. Because you see, he knew what Samson had done. Twice. First, he knows about the lion because of his daughter. And now he knows about the 30 men he killed. So he's sweating. And Samson's like, this guy looks nervous, and I don't know why. I'm going to see my wife. He walks to the right. Father-in-law blocks him. He walks to the left. Father-in-law blocks him again. He says, Samson, I'm really sorry. We thought you hated her. She was given away to one of your companions. Her younger sister is hotter than her. You can have her. But you see, Samson married this girl. Samson wanted his wife. And Samson's response to him in verse 3 is, this time I have the right to get even with the Philistines. And I'm really going to hurt them. So what we're told is that he goes out, he catches 300 foxes. He ties them tail to tail. So that's 150 pairs of really quick foxes. And he ties torches at the end of them. So he lets them loose in all of the Philistines' grains, olive groves, and vineyards. And he sets fires to them. See, back then, unless it was raining, there's no fire department. That's not getting put out. This is their livelihood. This is their food. This is what they survive on. And he sets it ablaze. The Philistines begin to inquire what happened. Who set this fire? How did this happen? They're told that Israelite named Samson. See, that name that they hear brings fear to their mind because they're all too familiar with who Samson is. And we're told that Samson does this to the Philistines. The Philistines respond by finding out that his wife had been given away, and this is what caused and initiated all these issues. Okay, so Samson is somewhere unknown. The Philistines, in response to Samson's burning down of all these crops, now go to his wife and her father-in-law, and they burned them to death. I don't know what was wrong with these Philistines, but you hear that this man has this great strength, and you try to get him mad even more. So what we're told is that when Samson finds out that they acted this way, he says and he swears he's not going to stop until he gets revenge, like something off of John Wick. And he attacks them viciously and slaughters many of them. There's no number given here. And then he retires. He goes down to a cave in a rock of Edom. And I imagine that he's in this cave depressed and sad. He lost the woman that he thought he loved, who had betrayed him. He might have been going back to give her another chance, but now it's too late because, see, her house was burned down and she's dead. And these Philistines were told, go full force, and they camp in Judean territory, in the Israelite territory, in a place called Lehi. And the Judean men in the area find out, and they inquire. They say, why are you here to attack us? Like, we haven't done anything to you. And they tell him, we're here to get Samson. We're here to do to him what he did to us. We're here for revenge. And so we're told that 3,000 Judean men go to this cave seeking out Samson, asking him to turn himself over. That's just sad, because you see, these men from Judah, 3,000 strong, had forgotten who they served. They tell Samson, you forget that the Philistines are rulers over us. But they forget who the real ruler over them was. Yahweh, the I Am. The I Am that had led their ancestors out of Egypt through the leadership of Moses. The I Am that had led them into the promised land through Joshua. They had forgotten the victories that the I Am had given them. They were focused on the I. They were scared. They were fearful. And so Samson agrees and says, it's fine, just promise me you won't kill me yourselves. And they tie him with 2 fresh new ropes because they agree not to kill him. And they start on their way back to Lehi. And then we see that these Philistines see 3,000 men, and at the front of that is Samson tied up. They recognize him. And so initially, what their instinct is, we're going to go jump and we're going to go kill this man. So they run towards him, and in that moment, we're told that the Spirit of Yahweh once again falls powerfully upon him. He tears those ropes to pieces as if they're not even on him. He picks up the first thing he can find, which is the fresh jawbone of a donkey, and he starts swinging. He starts swinging and swinging and swinging, and we're told that he killed 1,000 men in this instant. Now, Samson, at the end of this great epic battle scene, as if it was from a movie from Hollywood, says, with a donkey's jawbone, I have made heaps of them, piles of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. So boastful, definitely not a humble man. You see, Samson had also forgotten who he served. Samson was so focused on the I rather than the I Am that he had forgotten that 2 times before with the young lion, with the 30 men, and now with these 1,000 men, it was the Spirit of Yahweh that had enabled him, given him the agility, the strength, the capability of doing these great feats. And it's not until right after that that he notices his own mortality and dependence upon Yahweh, where he says, oh snap, there is no water. I am thirsty. I am going to die. God, are you going to let me die in the hands of the uncircumcised? God opens up a well in a spring and gives him water. Now, in that moment, Samson realizes, one can imagine, that he is mortal and completely dependent upon God. Now, can I get real with you for a second? This applies to me because 2 years ago, when I got to the seminary, I was a sponsored student. And I thought, I'm good. When I finish here, I've got a place. I'll be all right. Last July, I got a phone call that pulled that rug from up under me. I realized the water I needed from the I Am. I was so focused on the I that I forgot about the I Am. And you see, I became dependent on the I rather than the I Am. I forgot that it was Yahweh who enabled me to preach. I forgot that it was Yahweh who got me through undergrad. I forgot that it was Yahweh who brought me up to the seminary and would bring me out of the seminary. And I was focused on the I rather than the I am, just as the 3,000 men from Judah, just as Samson had all these times. And as I share this with you, I stand before you here today with the acknowledgement that I am once again wholeheartedly dependent upon Yahweh. I'm no longer focused on the I, but now I am focused on the I am, who will bring me and you and all of us who are speakers and preachers, because we all have been called to ministry. We are all pastors, but we must remember and analyze our lives and make sure that we are focused on the I am rather than the self. Remember, focus on the I am and not on the I. You bow your heads with me for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much because you never let us get big heads, Lord. You have a way of humbling us, but in such a loving and caring way. Thank you so much. And I pray that as all of us here have been called to ministry, that we don't focus on the I, don't focus on ourselves, what we think we have done, but that we may be able to focus on Yahweh, on you, on the things that you enable us to do. Amen.